thank you for the invitation. I'm Birgit Martin from Manitoulin Island, and I was asked to speak to you about marketing and our experiences with what we undertook quite a number of years ago in terms of a marketing program for our farm. There you go. Just to give you a bit of background, just to give you an idea of where we're working from. We're on Manitoulin Island. We moved to Manitoulin Island in 1998. Both my husband and I grew up on dairy farms, and so I was in Powassan, so near north, and Jim grew up in Simcoe County, both on dairy farms. My home farm now is a beef and sheep farm. Jim's home farm is still a dairy and a little bit of beef. And we worked in Simcoe County area when we first were married, and we wanted to farm full time, but even in the mid-90s we couldn't afford the farmland down there we couldn't afford the price of farmland in southern Ontario, so we decided to move north. We had people that we knew on Manitoulin Island, so that was the connection to Manitoulin Island. We moved there in 1998. If you know anything about Manitoulin, it's the largest freshwater island in the world. It's the end of the Niagara Escarpment. So there are alvars, there are bluffs, exposed limestone. The soils, this is a soils map for our part of Manitoulin Island, western Manitoulin Island. They vary greatly in depth, so the pink is actually called a Farmington loam, but by definition it's like less than 10 to 20 centimeters to bedrock, and in a lot of cases only about 2 to 5 centimeters to bedrock. The other colors will be other types of soil classes, whether they be sandy loams through to clay loam. It's really good soil where there is soil. The climate is moderate, about 24 to 2,500 heat units, maybe a little bit more in recent years. But it is dry. It is the driest region in the province, actually, which is ironic given that we're surrounded by water. The top photo is a picture of our original home farm that we bought, and it goes out to the North Channel. And we just started as a really small cow-calf operation in the 90s. And now we do cow-calf to finish. We do some custom grazing, and we do some cash cropping now as well. But BSE has come up already today. As everybody in the beef business knows, in 2003, with market closures, border closures, as young farmers, we were fairly hard hit by BSE, so we got into direct marketing. So we did a bit of dabbling starting in about 2004. At that time, we partnered with another farm. We went to the farmers markets, but we weren't moving a lot of volume. We had a bigger shift in 2008, where we started very purposely going after the grass finished market. That seemed to be something of interest to consumers. So we pursued that, and we did advertising, print advertising in the Sudbury Star, and we had our first few grass-fed beef customers that way. Both of our sons, thankfully, were interested in agriculture, were interested in farming with us. Both boys went to Ridgetown College, and they expressed an interest to farm with their parents, which two generations are difficult to work together, but they wanted to work with us. And so 10 years ago, in 2015, we seized the opportunity to expand our land base and accommodate them to grow into a multi-family farm. And the farm expansion has been quite aggressive. We're in 3 farmstead locations now. Our boys each are on a farmstead, and we're at a third one, my husband and I. And I would say one of the main reasons is we're not risk adverse. The banker is a friend, not our personal friend, but we are. We maintain a good relationship with our banker, and we have a lot of debt, but that has allowed us to expand to be full-time farmers. We don't work off the farm anymore. We also made a very conscious decision to seek value added for our farm products, in our case beef cattle. And we have purebred breeding stock. We have Angus cattle and Shorthorn cattle, so we pursued that angle. We sell purebred bulls and females and F1s. We also have a few Charolais cattle, and we sell F1's Charolais Shorthorn Cross, so they're tan that Kim Jo talked about being a market for. And we also offer a calf buyback program to farmers that buy our bulls. So we will, particularly with the Shorthorn genetics, because of the color you get often in the calves, we will buy back the calves because we know the performance we can get through our system, and it takes the risk away from whoever's buying the bulls in terms of having off-color cattle. So we'll buy the calves, we'll come up with a price at whatever time they want to sell them, and buy the calves back to put through our finishing system. And that way it also increases the numbers that we can put through our marketing program, because our herd does not have enough volume to supply our marketing program. And then when it comes to our marketing program, we created an actual brand for our beef. We call it Pure Island Beef. That was probably one of the most difficult things to do as part of a marketing program, is to come up with a name. And we wanted it to mean something, so we chose Pure Island because of how it relates to the image of the island, obviously. And Manitoulin has an image of being clean and green, a recreational base, so we thought that lent itself to the name as well. And that also we have chosen to do more of an all-natural product, so again the word pure would come in there. And that also that it's purely local, like we try to keep everything as local as possible. All our feed is produced locally. The only thing that is not local to us currently, because our local abattoir closed, is our cutting and wrapping services for our finished product. We also worked with a local marketing team, the father-son team. They created our website for us, our Facebook page, so it's a really professional design. And then we launched a website in 2014 with an online beef shop, about us pages, about dry aging, all kinds of information on the website. And then we focus on two distinctly different products. We have a grass finished beef and a grain finished beef, but both are extra aged in terms of multiple weeks, not just 7 to 10 days. So our philosophy is you need a story, you need a product, and you need a story. So our story specific to us, and this will be different for every operation, is we start with the story of our island. Manitoulin is, it's a recognizable entity. It's respected for its landscape. We also pursue that natural theme of no implants, no treated feedstuffs, and we emphasize that it's local and it's a family farm, multi-generational now, but family farm. We also try to keep our message in all of our outreach professional and respectful, especially respectful of people that have a different philosophy of farming. We won't throw our neighbors under the bus in terms of, because we're conventional farmers, we won't have a negative message against anybody else's production program, whether it's organic or anything else. Everybody has their niche, and we respect that. And then I think it's also really important to identify your market, your potential market, who it is, what it is you're selling, who you want to sell to, and your capability. For example, if you have, in our case, we have a fairly large herd now, so we can pursue a small distributor, for example, for beef. Whereas if you have a small operation, the best venue might be a farmer's market, or collaborate with neighbors to increase volume and then pursue larger customers. Years ago when we started this back in 2004, we approached Massey Wholesale, and we left the meeting with them knowing that we could never supply them because they wanted 2 beef a week, and we were in no position to do that. So it ended before it began. So you have to clearly identify who your market might be and what you're capable of producing. And then in terms of the product, we're starting our product with a specific genetic base. We have primarily just the 2 British breeds, Shorthorn and Angus. We chose them for family background reasons. Jim grew up around Shorthorns, but also from a very specific product point of view. The Mark Animal Research Center in Nebraska has the British breeds generally, Angus, Shorthorn, and Hereford at the top for marbling, and they perform really well on other carcass traits as well, ribeye size, etc. Perhaps not on percent yield, where something like a limo would outperform them, but in terms of the carcass characteristics that are important to the consumer, the British breeds excel. We also chose to pursue the British breeds because from a grass finishing point of view, the British breeds mature at an earlier age, and we, because of the lower gain on a grass finishing program, they're by default older, so we'll get more fat cover on an animal like a British Angus or a Shorthorn at an earlier age than you would with an exotic breed. So, and that keeps us under the OTM regulation, because with grass-fed cattle you will push 2 years or more in terms of a marketing age, and if then the OTM regulations in the abattoirs become an issue because the spine has to come out and you're losing carcass weight and price, both. It's a double whammy. So we use the British breeds to try to get in consistently, probably in the 24 to 27 month range for marketability. And they just, in our opinion, are able to finish better on grass, those breeds. We also do genomic testing on our bulls so that we know right from the start whether they are in the top of their breed for tenderness rating, and then that becomes more important, particularly on the grass-fed side, because we can't dry age the grass-fed beef as long as the grain-fed beef because less fat cover. So then we rely more on genetic tenderness to get that tenderness in the meat. We also have the philosophy of producing feed more perhaps like a dairy operation would than a typical cow herd where you have dry cows for the winter. Especially for the grass finishing program, we need really, really good winter feed so that we can continue our grass-fed program through the winter. Most consumers have the misunderstanding that grass-fed beef is only available during the pasture season. We've made a commitment to have it available year-round, so we need to be able to have great forages in the winter and no starch supplementation. So they're not getting any corn silage or barlage or anything like that, no grain supplementation whatsoever, to have it as a true grass-finished product. We actually find that our grass-fed cattle raised during the winter months are more consistent in finish than our grass-fed cattle raised on grass, for the very reason that James Byrne talked about earlier, that every day that an animal is on grass, the grass is actually different. Obviously it's going through the grazing cycle, so every day the grass is different. But when we're feeding a stored feed in the winter, every day the feed is the same. So it's a very predictable feeding program. So we think we've had fairly good success with grass finished product during the winter months. We also hand select any of the animals that go into our grass finishing program based on phenotype. If they look like an animal that will not need grain to finish, they'll go into the grass. Like if they're already just by their nature carrying more condition, they'll go into the grass finishing program, because it's absolutely imperative to get fat cover on the carcass so you can hang it. If a carcass doesn't have fat cover, 7 to 10 day hang time is the most we'll get, and then we don't get the tenderness or the flavor that we want in our product. And it also, if the grass feeding program is done, especially over a long enough period of time and with high quality forages, you get that yellower color in the fat. Sometimes it just comes with age too, but you'll see just on the very left-hand side of the photo, you'll see the white fat of a grain-finished carcass hanging there, and then those two other sides, that's grass-finished beef. So it's a very distinctly different look. If it were going through the grading system, we use our abattoir doesn't grade, but if that were to go through a grading system, it would likely not make A grade because of the discolored fat. But we don't care, our customers don't care. The grass-fed customers actually want that instead of a white fat carcass. Typically, we're probably aiming for a AAA on our grain feds and still a AA at least on our grass feds. Primarily because of our location, our business is mostly wholesale. We do some direct-to-consumer retail, but our biggest customers are country markets, where we will provide them with a finished cut and wrapped retail ready product, like everything's every steak is individually wrapped. 1 pound package is a ground beef, for example. And that's our biggest market. But they buy the whole animal, cut to their specs, but they're buying the whole animal. We do not sell cut by cut at all. Just because of where we live, we just do not have the opportunity to sell the product otherwise. Where we are, Meldrum Bay has a full-time population of 50 people. So we can't do an on-farm store. We don't have enough local population to sell inventory that we can't sell through our other venues. Our secondary market would be wholesale carcasses. So for example, we deal with a restaurant in Toronto, a distributor through Hamilton, butcher shop in Toronto as well, where they will actually take the abattoir just breaks the carcass down into 8 pieces. It gets shipped down with herb, and then they process it however they like. What we do online, direct to consumer, is also fairly preset. We do 10 and 30 pound boxes. We have 3 different kinds of boxes, but I determine what goes in them. So again, so we don't have inventory issues, we don't do any individual cuts, and then we do a delivery program across Manitoulin and through Espanola and into Sudbury. If we're traveling south, our oldest son, Nicholas, he sits on the BFO board with Kim Jo Bliss, and so if he's heading south to a BFO meeting, he could do a delivery into Toronto or something for us for an individual consumer, but it's not part of our regular program. And people that order that do not live locally, we'll tell them right off, we will try to deliver, but you might be waiting 6 weeks to a couple months to be getting whatever it is that you've ordered. A few of the things that have been really, really important for us is the relationship with the butcher shop. We have used many different butcher shops depending upon what phase we were in, and during during COVID, with the demand for Ontario processing, we struggled finding processing space. So that is a really, really important relationship. Every butcher shop works differently and their quality is different, but we've landed on a really, really good one. They're really far away from us, but they're really, really good. So Amar Meats in Valgagne, which is the other side of Timmins, it's an 8-hour drive for us, because as I said, our local abattoir closed. But they have processing space, and they're extremely good at what they do, and they're very professional. Then also in terms of when we started, a really important relationship we had at the time was with this marketing team, the father-son team. They did a professionally developed website for us, our social media. We only do Facebook, we don't do other platforms. But so they got us started, and our little things on our website, for example, like the photos, these are 2 screenshots of a couple of the pages on our website. The photos rotate in the background. And like there's some really classic shots of cooked meat or raw meat, but they rotate, so the website is visually appealing all the time, and that's what you get when you get somebody from a professional doing it rather than creating your own website. Other things that we've picked up along with time, stupid little things, which you never think about at the time. We use chest freezers. They're a pain in the butt. Ideal freezers would be a walk-in freezer or at least an upright freezer. We found long ago that we can't be exact on our weights. Like the butcher shops are not, for example, a 1 pound, we ask for 1 pound packages of ground beef, but they can vary anywhere from say 0.97 to 1.1. So we tell everybody they're getting approximately 10 pounds of ground beef. They're getting 10 packages. Sometimes they never get less than 10, but they might be getting a shade over 10. So I guess we're shorting ourselves, but we don't sell it as an exact weight, we sell it as an approximate weight. The packaging also, to keep it simple but professional, we've more and more gone to, we used to use a lot of the insulated bags, but they are a little expensive. We've gone to double bagging paper bags, just to cut down on, a lot of people don't want plastics used anymore. And we do all of our cutting and wrapping in paper, not in vac packs, and customers appreciate that too because less plastic use. We have some customers that specifically want vac packing, but for the most part I would say 98% of our product goes out as in butcher paper. And then we have We don't deliver door to door. We'll set up meeting spots to do deliveries to keep it simpler for us. Pricing is another thing that is a painful process. We price our sides and our boxes completely differently. We put an extra margin on the boxes for lower quantities. Very basically, we take rail grade price plus our costs plus a bit of a local margin, and we always build in the fact that ours isn't commodity beef. Number one, so it's a natural program. So the carcasses, we give up on performance when we're not implanting, so we demand a higher price to make up for that lack of performance. And also, our carcasses aren't as big. Like the Ontario market is aiming at a 900 to 1,000 pound plus carcass, and you get great, there's economies of scale that go with that. So we have a higher base price just because our carcasses tend to be, I would say, some get, the grass-fed ones are smaller, so say 650, but our grain-feds will probably max out at about 800. And so we take a bit of a premium for having a smaller carcass. We try to hold a steady price, which we were able to do for a long, long time before, say, the last year especially. And with the steady climb in rail grade, you don't want to be left behind. But our theory is that we don't necessarily need to capture the highest, as long as when the market comes down, we're not taking the lowest either. We try to keep a steady, like more of a steady price. But right now, we don't know where that's going to shake out, so we don't want to be left too far behind. In terms of pricing beef specifically, there's a lot of factors to figure into the price. Cooler shrink is a huge one when you're doing extended dry aging. In the first week of 24 hours of chilling, you lose about 2 to 3% of your carcass weight in the first 24 hours. But then for each 7 days additional hanging, you're losing another 1 to 1.5% carcass weight. So, and then depending on how the customer is having it cut and wrapped, you might have 30% cut losses in terms of bone and trim. So quite often we figure with only about a 60% cutout on our carcasses going back to the customer or into boxes. So you have to factor that into your price. And one thing that I heard from another marketing talk years ago, they were selling actually free-range turkeys for Christmas. And this is probably 15 years ago, and at that time they were charging $7 or $8 a pound for their turkeys. And the number one thing they said was never feel guilty about the price you ask, because it's when they're buying from the farmer, especially beef by the side or quarter, it's always a great buy. It's a better buy than you'll do in the grocery store anytime, especially with beef insides and quarters, or even in a combo pack box. So just some final thoughts. We have found that direct marketing isn't cheap. We've had to figure in a little bit for non-payment. We've had some customers that did not pay. It's not, and then we have no recourse. Obviously, you can't get the product back. And it's not quick in terms of a relationship building process. It takes a while. But promote your product as a storied product. It's a story that customers want to hear. Be professional about it. Be patient. And thank your customers. What we've done now in the last few years is every Christmas we make a farm calendar, a new one every year with pictures taken that year, and we send it out to all of our customers, family members, etc. as well. Yeah, so that was just a little thank you. I realize that they're spending a lot more money with us than the value of a calendar perhaps, but it's just to show that you're thinking of them and thanking them for their business. And I think it's just a touch that I think they appreciate. And that wraps up what I wanted to say about how we market at our farm.